This tennis player went from this backhand, jammed and tight, to this backhand, fluid and smooth, in just a few minutes thanks to a weird training exercise you're about to learn. First, let's see what makes a world-class two-handed backhand so special. There's obviously many things that work together that give Novak one of the best two-handed backhands of all time, but today we're going to focus on two of them. As he swings forward to contact and he meets the ball, I want you to notice the alignment of his chest at contact and the alignment of his hips at contact. They're both facing the point of contact as the ball touches the strings. And so what that means is his upper body, his entire torso has unwound and delivered his hands and delivered his racket from around the backside of his body all the way in front of him to meet the ball. By the time the ball gets there, his whole torso has already unwound. Not so far as on a forehand ground stroke where the torso, the hips are facing towards the net, but instead we have, maybe a little bit short of a 45-degree angle with the hips and with the shoulders. And that's just simply because both hands are attached to the racket. Now, normally when an adult competitive player has a really rigid, tight, two-handed backhand swing, it's because this part, the torso, hasn't unwound enough, so the hands get caught back behind. This student that I just worked with is really unique because she's figured out how to get her torso unwound just like Novak, and yet look at how jammed her arms and her hands are. So you can see her shoulders are facing towards the ball, her hips are facing towards where the ball would be if her arms and her hands were out in front, but her arms are super bent because her hands are just late to the party. Novak's hands and arms are extended and out in front because his hands have come along with his arms and they've been timed correctly to meet the ball out in front the way everybody knows they're supposed to. The result is a contact position that's super tight and tense. It gets the arms really rigid, and then as a result of that, as the follow-through goes around the body, look at how short and how small the circle is that this student's racket is making. It's a very compact, tight, rigid motion, as opposed to Novak, as he goes through the point of contact with his hands way out in front and his arms extended. Look at how much longer the path of his racket is, which means he's just going to have a much more smooth, effortless, fluid motion with his racket, which delivers a lot more energy with a lot less effort. So here's the weird drill I had my student do. Before really explaining anything to her, I handed her a 5-pound medicine ball. I gave it to her and I gave her a line to stand behind. It was the single sideline. And right in front of her, probably 12 or 15 feet away, is a wall. It's a concrete wall she can throw this ball into. And I gave her a target up on the wall. It was probably about 5 or 6 feet up off the ground. So she has a pretty significant distance on purpose that I asked her to throw the ball in a particular target that I asked her to hit on the wall. And I did this on purpose because I wanted her to feel like physically, with this weight now connected to her hands, she would have to really engage her hands, have them come along for the ride. And with this kind of weight attached to the hands, you really can't, you could, but it would be incredibly unnatural and unathletic to keep her hands and her arms tight and pinned in close to her body and try to throw the ball with, kind of T-Rex hands out towards the wall on the other side. So I want you to, this is her very first time picking up this ball. She's never done medicine ball throws before in her life. And I want you to watch how she just kind of swings back and forth at first. I demonstrated 1 or 2 throws to her, and that was it. I didn't really explain technique or anything. I just said, look, we're going to throw the ball into the wall. I want you to look at how now her hands and her arms are connected with her body. In other words, as her body uncoils and turns and her hips rotate and her shoulders rotate and her chest rotates, now her arms are just kind of hanging down because of the weight in her hands. And as she rotates around, her arms are now creating a much bigger circle. And I find in my experience that holding this kind of weight, I've had players hold dumbbells and do these kind of pendulum swings back and forth. Modern tennis rackets are so light and they're so easy to maneuver around with the hands and the arms that a lot of times we miss the connection between the body and the arms and we don't get the flow that we're supposed to. So here this would be kind of like an imaginary contact position now, right here, where she would probably ideally let go of the ball. And look at how her chest is facing towards imaginary contact position. Her hips, her torso are facing towards the ball. But now, without explaining anything or asking her to really do anything at all besides throw the ball, now her arms are extended, her hands are out in front, and she's got plenty of space. And so when she finally does throw the ball, now she's in a much more athletic, strong position, and she's creating the space with her hands and finding the right timing with her arms that she was supposed to in the first place for her backhand. If you'd like to transform your forehand and make it more smooth, flowing, efficient, powerful, effortless, just like my student in today's video is doing with her backhand, make sure to go to forehandpower.com and sign up for the free training where I'll show you step by step with drills, just like I did with this student today, how to transform your forehand into being athletic and flowing and totally effortless. You'll learn how to add 15 miles per hour to your forehand ground stroke in just 15 minutes of practice. The training is totally free, so make sure to go to forehandpower.com. Next, I had my student go to the service line after doing a bunch of these throws, and I want you to watch her, I skipped ahead a little bit there, watch her shadow swings here, how now she's thinking about holding that medicine ball, and as her body unwinds, which she was already doing really well at, her arms are now hanging down loosely and nice and relaxed. She's extending her arms and her hands out in front of her, creating lots of space between her body and her imaginary contact point. And this is literally the very first ball she's ever hit after doing that medicine ball throw. Look at how different the contact point is now compared to her original swing. In fact, I'll show you side by side. So not quite apples to apples because the height of contact is a little bit different, but I'll show you a better comparison in just a second. I just wanted to show you her original swing with her first ever attempt after the medicine ball hit. You can obviously see the big difference in how much space there is between her body and the point of contact. And as a result, watch how long this follow through is. By the way, we haven't talked about follow through at all together, but on her original one, look at how small this circle is that she's tracing around her body. And on the new one, with the new contact point, look at how much bigger and longer this circle is, which is going to make everything much more fluid and efficient and easy with her new backhand. Next, we started getting ready to hit some shots from the baseline with her new backhand, and she was just kind of messing around and doing some shadow swings as I was getting the camera set up. And I want you to, I actually find this really fascinating. Look how she's like just swinging her arms like super passive and loose and relaxed. She even takes her right hand off the racket. I didn't ask her to do any of this, but I think this is just a perfect manifestation of this principle. Have the body come around to be the power source. Keep the hands and the arms relaxed, but make sure that the hands keep up with the body and lead the racket out to a strong and stable contact position out in front of the body. Now here's her first hits with her new backhand from the baseline. I'm having her alternate between some shadow swings and then some hits, and you'll see she has varying success. Some of these hits she's a little bit less extended out in front, and other ones she's timing her hands and her arms a little bit better, and she's finding a little bit better spacing between herself and her body with the point of contact. But man, this is a huge improvement. She's now got much more distance between the body and her body and the point of contact, which is going to create this bigger, longer circle. Now she's right in the ballpark with Novak, which is pretty incredible. Her body is still doing its job and unwinding really well, but the difference is now her arms and her hands are correctly coming along for the ride, and she's finding the right timing thanks to all the reps she did with the medicine ball. Highly recommend you try this. And if you want to improve your power, your flow, your efficiency on your forehand ground stroke, remember to go to forehandpower.com where you can pick up my free training that will show you how to add 15 miles per hour to your forehand in just 15 minutes of practice. Thanks so much for watching today. I'll catch you in the next video.